Wagwan Warriors, I want to talk about Street Fighter Assassin's Fist and the Satsui no Hado awakening in Ryu. Now, what's interesting is that in episode 4, when Ryu and Ken are on the rooftops, Ryu asks Ken does he have a strange feeling about this place, like a dark key hanging around the area. And Ken responds by saying, "Did you take drugs last night?" And I think that question there where he asked him, "Did you take drugs last night?" it wasn't random. Even though Joey Answer states in the director's commentary it's a bit random and it was just kind of a bit of dark humour, I kind of think it's supposed to be symbolic of how the Satsui no Hado worked. It's like a drug. If we look at the episodes with Goki when he was younger, we see how the Satsui no Hado affects him. It really does work like a drug. First of all, it's very addictive. Goki, he doesn't meditate out of his system like Gore-Tex and Goken did. He just keeps using it. And he can't stop himself, he just keeps doing it. And each time he's not using it, we see that he begins to spit out blood, he's coughing up, he's feeling pains, muscle cramps, he's tensing up, and he can't help it. You see every time he's not fighting, this is what happens, and it's like withdrawal symptoms from drugs. And I'm not trying to say the Satsui no Hado is a drug, but drugs are a good analogy to the Satsui no Hado, it's side effects really. Not only that, the Satsui no Hado has extreme effects to Gorky's health. Mentally he is deteriorating. He's more angry, moody, aggressive, violent, and he even goes as far enough to almost kill his brother Goken, and he leaves Sayaka, the girl he loves, just because of Satsui no Hado trying to go on his quest, this idea that he could consume Satsui no Hado to become an even more powerful warrior. And it's clouding his vision, his judgment. Physically he begins to change, We see when he goes to his cave, 6 months into training, he begins to physically change because the Satsui no Hado is dangerous. It's hurting him, it's changing his body, so his body has to adjust to how intense the Satsui no Hado is. And he notices this. He even starts to laugh in a sinister way, and he states that, "Shisho, you were right, Gore-Tex was right about Satsui no Hado." Rather than swallowing his pride, he just goes back in the cave and carries on training for another 2 years to the point where his appearance has changed and he's no longer recognizable. And you might have seen these before and after pics of how drugs affect people, and I'm not trying to say that that's literally what it is, but the analogy is there. He noticed that it was doing him harm, he noticed how dangerous it is, but he still goes back and 2-3 years later he is now not even recognizable. He's not himself, he's a completely different being. He is Akuma. He goes through that event where he consumes Satsui no Hado. During this he's bleeding out, he's hurting, and he pretty much dies and then revives himself. He has a very powerful ki and he unleashes the Satsui no Hado in a massive explosion. It's quite amazing what he can do. But the fact is, you see how much it changes him. He's not even himself. And that's kind of how the drug analogy works. In addition to that, Ken asks Ryu, did he take drugs last night? We don't really get a clear answer from Ryu. He just goes, what? Because in episode 4, the two of them, they just go out drinking together. So they didn't really take, drugs aside from alcohol, but it was kind of a bit random, but I kind of think it was also kind of symbolic of how the Satsui no Hado is being used by both Ryu and Goki. And this is a bit of a theory I have. Ryu was using Satsui no Hado secretly the same way Goki was using it secretly when he was younger. In episode 4, I believe, there's a part where Goken Reminiscence, where he caught Goki copying down the notes from the scrolls of Gore-Tex and putting them into his notebook. And the two of them have a bit of an argument that they shouldn't be doing this. But Goki claims that he doesn't want to be held back, and it's clear that he must be secretly using Satsui no Hado behind Gore-Tex and Goken's back. And Goki, we find him in the forest in episode 5. Right at the beginning of episode 5, he's in the forest, we see him cramping up, feeling pain, and Goken is nearby. Goken can hear him, but he regains his composure, and then Goken asks him what is he doing in the forest. And the best explanation I can think of is he's using Satsui no Hado. He's doing it at night, so that Gore-Tex doesn't notice. He's doing it away from the dojo far enough so Gore-Tex cannot notice. And Goken just finds him in the forest, but he doesn't realise what Goki is doing, and I have a feeling this is what Ryu's doing. A bit of evidence I have for this is episode 6. In episode 6, we see Ryu wake up in the middle of the night, and he just goes off, and Ken wakes up as well, realizes he's gone and follows him. And we see Ryu doing the Muno Hado kata and fires a Hadouken, accidentally hitting Ken, who followed him. But it was never addressed why Ryu was even out at night. Goken and Ken never asks him. It's like Ryu's introverted personality, no one's gonna question it. But I'm wondering, does he do this oftenly? And we see him do the Muno Hado kata. How do we know he hasn't been doing Satsui no Hado kata at night when Ken and Goken cannot notice? It's at night, they'd be sleeping. He could have been doing this, for multiple different nights. Some of you guys might be wondering, wait, what evidence do I have to support this? Why would he even know how to do Satsui no Hado? Where did he learn it? And the tragic truth is, it was from Ken. Now, most of you would, if you were perceptive enough, you would have noticed that Ken must have been the only person Ryu could have learned Satsui no Hado off. In episode 2, he finds Gorky's notebook, and in episode 3, he uses the Satsui no Hado kata to generate Hado. But not only that, he does it in front of Ryu. He performs the entire kata with the arms up, the horse pose, or the horse stance that Akuma does. Then he does the things with his hand, and then he generates the Hado right in front of Ryu. He was showing off, and Ryu is amazed. He is in awe at what Ken did with that kata. And then Ken gets called in by Goken, because Goken sensed Ken doing it. The two of them talk. Goken tells Ken never to use it again, and never to tell Ryu, because it's better that Ryu does not know about it at all. And that's as much as we know about it. Goken destroys the notebook, and Ken never used Satsui no Hado again. But Ryu hasn't been warned that it's dangerous, so for all we know, he copied the kata from Ken. He saw Ken do it, so he copied the kata, and has been practicing it in secret ever since. Very much how Goki did. Goki, going far into the forest so that Gore-Tex couldn't sense it, and Ryu doing it at night, so Goken and Ken were asleep, so they can't sense it. That's really what's been happening. In addition to this, we also have episode 4. In the beginning, Akuma is seen reaching out for Ryu, and Ryu wakes up thinking it was a nightmare. But I have a feeling that this is something to do with the Satsui no Hado. Akuma seems to not be aware of Ryu and Ken in episode 6, where he encounters Goken and is surprised that Goken has students. And in fact, throughout the series, he seems to think Goken has been using Satsui no Hado, saying that I knew you couldn't resist the power of Satsui no Hado. And he doesn't seem to be aware of Muno Hado. And the evidence I've got for this is that Akuma can sense Satsui no Hado, but because he's not aware of Muno Hado, he can't find Goken at Goken's dojo. He can't sense Ryu or Ken using Muno Hado. But the moment Ken used Satsui no Hado in episode 3, that's when Goki realised that someone out there is using Satsui no Hado, and the conclusion he came to is that Goken came home. So he goes back to Gore-Tex's dojo to confront him, believing that finally his brother is ready to fight him. And obviously Goken, refuses to fight him, so they agree that when the time is right they will fight. And Akuma returns to Gore-Tex's dojo on the anniversary of Gore-Tex's death, but Goken, Ken and Ryu are at Goken's dojo paying their respects to Gore-Tex from there, and Akuma can't find him, so we see him sort of just meditating there and screaming angrily because he thinks he's been stood up. And the fact is, I can't really give a good argument on why telepathy in Street Fighter Assassin's Fist is a bit inconsistent. Why can't Goken, sense whether Ryu or Ken is using Satsui no Hado? Why can't he just sense it? I don't know. And Ryu is clearly able to sense the difference between Satsui no Hado and Muno Hado. In episode 4 he says to Ken, do you have a bad feeling about this place, like a dark key? In episode 6 he can sense Akuma's presence. He tries to point out to Ken, listen, the birds, they've stopped. He can sense Akuma's sort of Hado, the Satsui no Hado from Akuma, how intense it is. But he has to point out to Ken that it's affecting the environment around them, such as the birds going quiet, and then they go back. The fact is, like Goken, Ryu can feel the difference between Muno Hado and Satsui no Hado. Ken hasn't used Satsui no Hado long enough to be able to feel its presence, I guess, or notice it, but he can feel Muno Hado, I guess, to some degree. Akuma has no experience in Muno Hado, so he can't detect it at all. He's not even aware it exists. he still thinks Goken trains using Satsui no Hado. And that is the best explanation I have to how Akuma can't sense Goken, but how he can sense Ryu using Satsui no Hado. I'm not entirely sure why he can't tell that it's Ryu he's reaching out for and not Goken. Because when he senses Ken and Ryu using Satsui no Hado in episode 2, and then in episode 4 he's reaching out for Ryu, he probably does this a lot, thinking that he's trying to reach out for Goken, you know. Akuma wants Goken to use Satsui no Hado, but instead he's reaching out for Ryu and not Ken, because it's Ryu that's been using it consistently, but he's been doing all of this off screen, and it was only up to us to notice this ourselves. Joey Jansen never states in the director's commentary or in the Q&As how did Ryu, you know, awaken Satsui no Hado, but the fact is, it's because of Ken. Ken introduced it to Ryu, and because Goken only warned Ken of the dangers of using Satsui no Hado, Ken stopped using it, and he never showed Ryu about it, he never explained it to Ryu. So to Ryu, he just practiced it in secret. You might be a bit skeptical, why would Ryu know to practice it in secret? And I don't really have much of an answer for that, but it's possibly because of what the Satsui no Hado does to a person. I have a feeling that when Ryu practiced the Satsui no Hado, he did it somewhere where Goken couldn't feel it, but maybe Akuma could. And, you know, the more he did it, the more addictive it felt, so he carried on doing it, but he must have known that it was going to affect him mentally, because that's what Satsui no Hado does. It makes you aggressive, it makes you violent, and it feels good to the people who use it, just like how it affected Goki. And Ryu must have known this, you know, in episode 6. He doesn't shoot the Hadouken at Ken in the very beginning, and Ken asks him what he's so afraid of. Ryu knows what he's afraid of. He's afraid of what the Satsui no Hado is doing to him. You know, it's making him violent, it's making him want to be more violent. And that's why Ryu keeps holding back, even after episode 2 when Goken makes it clear he shouldn't hold back. But the reason why he keeps holding back even after those episodes is because the Satsui no Hado is making him want to enjoy killing, enjoy hurting, and that's what Ryu is definitely worried about, what he's scared of. And you know, this is why he's so introverted, and that's why he'd be practicing it in secret. He knows it's wrong. In the final episode where him and Ken are fighting, he does not try and use Satsui no Hado, but the moment he's pushed to that limit by Ken, Ryu wants to, you know, be a good fighter. He wants to be better than Ken, but not so much he wants to kill him, but the moment Ken pushes him to that limit, that's when the Satsui no Hado kicks in. He becomes evil Ryu. He, you know, knocks out Ken with a Shoryuken, and then when Ken wakes up, he sees Ryu struggling not to kill him, you know. Ryu is like trying to move away from Ken and is struggling to regain control. And even though Ken ends up getting a victory, knocks him out later on, when Goken asks Ken about whether he was using Satsui no Hado in that fight, or whether he told Ryu, Ken, you know, sticks to his word, he didn't, which is true. And then Ryu admits, no master, it was me. I think I used the Satsui no Hado. And that is true, he did use it. And Goken and Ken do come to a theory that Goki had something to do with Ryu using Satsui no Hado, but they don't come to the conclusion, and that's because it's not Goki, it was Ken. It was all Ken's fault, and that's the tragic truth about it, because Ken didn't know any better. He didn't mean for this, but because Ken, you know, used the Satsui no Hado in episode 2, he showed it off to Ryu, it, you know, unleashed that cycle of Akuma finding Goken, Akuma and Goken having their fight, Akuma killing Goken, as allegedly killing him, and, you know, Ryu's lifelong struggle with Satsui no Hado all came from just Ken looking at the wrong thing and showing off. And that is really the tragic and sad truth about Satsui no Hado in Street Fighter Assassin's Fist. Now, whether or not Joey Jansen intended this, we don't know, but I kind of think that maybe it was a hidden message that he had, or maybe it was just coincidental that this happened. But what do you guys think? Do you like this idea? If you're a bit skeptical, please comment why, and please comment how you think Ryu learned Satsui no Hado spontaneously. Where do you think he learned it from? And with that, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you like this video. If you don't like this video, there is a dislike button, and please comment on how I could improve my videos in future. And with that, arigato, and goodbye.